coldest beer I've ever had.
Hey, they don't call it the world's most refreshing beer for nothing.
Okay, be honest with me. Do you really have the Rocky Mountains in your beer cooler?
You don't believe it? Check it out.
Man, that's pretty amazing.
I know, right? I can't believe it myself sometimes. I mean, this cooler is only 3 feet wide.
Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. With great beer comes great responsibility.
Live and local conversation for the Ohio Valley continues shortly. Here on the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
Does your company's website work for you? Is it helping attract new clients and improving your brand awareness? If not, or you don't know, contact the team at Omni Strategic Technologies. With expert web developers, they build amazing web experiences that help their clients perform better. Contact Omni at 304-242-7600 or visit them at www.omniperforms.com.
CA House Music has all the gear to make your music legendary. With all the best gear including Fender, Epiphone, Yamaha, and more, CA House will have you rocking in no time. Get the most for your money with everyday low prices. And we meet or beat internet pricing. Play before you buy and let our product specialists help you pick out the instrument that's right for you. CA House Music, supporting local musicians since 1872. Play music for life.
Most of us are faced with uncertainty every day. Your job, your finances, sporting events, schooling for your children, and so much more. With so much uncertainty surrounding you, there is one auto dealership that you can be certain about, and that's Doan Ford. You can be certain that you always get a great deal and the best service afterwards. Being in business for over 50 years has given Doan Ford the reputation of being a strong, reliable dealership. Be certain. Choose Doan Ford. Online at DoanFord.com.
I'm not buying till I check Doan Ford.
Getting a COVID-19 vaccine is the best way to protect you and your loved ones. The vaccines have been tested, they're safe, and they work. And they're available at pharmacies in many locations across West Virginia. Making the choice to get vaccinated means getting West Virginia back to regular life. Here's West Virginia University men's basketball coach Bob Huggins.
The pandemic took away the greatest home court advantage in college basketball, our Mountaineer fans. I'm Coach Huggins, and I'm tired of empty arenas, masks, and social distancing. That's why I got my COVID vaccine. They're safe, free, and available almost everywhere without hassle or delay. Let's work as a team, get vaccinated, and fill a Coliseum next season. I'm Coach Huggins. I got my COVID shot. Now the ball's at...
Alrighty, thank you.
From the Watchdog, here's your local weather forecast for your Wednesday. Mostly sunny and hazy, with afternoon thunderstorms developing, high of 87. Tonight, scattered rain showers and a low of 68. And for your Thursday, expect rain showers in the morning, with a chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon and a high of 80. And that's your local weather forecast from the Watchdog.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
What's today?
Want to know what it is?
I cannot tell a lie. It's National Tell the Truth Day.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth? Don't buzz a lying.
I'm not lying.
You want answers!
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Boy, that escalated quickly. Well, truth be told.
It's showtime, baby.
Opinions, rants, commentary, and interviews. Plus, your complete morning news, weather, and sports. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe in the 100 Days of Summer.
Yes, seeking truth on a daily basis. And when we can find it, just making things up. That's That's the Watchdog Morning Show in a nutshell. We're looking at 74 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. It is foggy. 74 degrees also here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling. And it's still foggy outside, but the fog beginning to dissipate, and I can actually see some sunshine coming through the window. So I actually opened the door so I can get a little sunshine in here because it's been kind of a dark and dreary morning this morning. So 74 degrees, foggy officially, but sun is making its way known. Scattered thunderstorms, muggy, warm, high of 86. The official way the day is going to go today. Today on the Watchdog Morning Show, Wheeling Council narrowly okays creating a homeless liaison position. Details yet to be determined. I've got a lot of questions. Mayor Elliott can help me get some answers to those in just a minute. Fox News announces plans for a 24-hour weather channel. And I'm trying to figure out what's conservative weather going to be like. They're going to make the weather conservative, but if it's Fox News, surely it will be. Governor Justice once again encourages young people to get vaccinated, appealing to a sense of community and mortality as well. Will his well-meaning finger wagging do any better than the baby dog contest has done? And if not, any ideas what will work to get more people vaccinated? Plus, if I have time before I turn things over to the Watchdogs at 9 o'clock, we'll take a look at the latest list of America's favorite fast food franchises. All of this coming up here on the show. But most of our morning this morning has been spent talking about the city of Wheeling approving on a 4-3 vote yesterday the position, I'm calling it homeless liaison. I don't know what the official title is going to be. But there are just some questions I have. And I asked Mayor Elliott if he would help me try to sort this out, because I figure he knows more about this than I do. Oh, I figured that. So I brought him on. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, Mr. Monroe.
So, simple question. What is this position supposed to do?
I guess the best way to think of this is something entirely new. And the job description, we have a pretty good idea what it's going to look like, but it's an evolving concept of a recognition that the city needs to have more of a seat at the table in the local conversation about how we address the homelessness issue, which during my time in office and even the years before seems to be getting worse and not better. It's a position that will not oversee other organizations necessarily, but it will be the interface for the city to make sure that there's a more collaboration right now than is taking place amongst these various organizations. It's a position that will channel the city's resources, which we do give money to a lot of these organizations each year through community development block grant funding. It'll channel that, but it'll have some responsibilities built into it too that will require people to work with the city, help us get a more accurate sort of census. The number of homeless people in the city at any one point in time, we don't have that number. If you ask different agencies, you'll get different numbers, but we don't have a single number. We'd like to know where that is on a regular basis, and just kind of to sort of consolidate the different case management approaches that are out there. Different organizations have different philosophies. Some have different requirements. We have a lot of great organizations that focus on this, Howard, and I don't in any way mean to be critical of them, but for a variety of reasons, the situation is getting worse, in my opinion, not better, and I think we need a little bit more of a collaborative approach. We need to have someone at the city who is tasked with kind of setting a collective policy here so that we are working as a community to solve an issue and not kind of working in independent silos. And it's going to be an evolving position. Obviously, we're going to be working with the city manager and the human resources director to narrow down exactly what this is. Because if this position is going to work, it's going to take the right person and the right job description.
Let me, first of all, play a little policy devil's advocate here.
Sure.
Most of what you said is actually not in your ordinance approved yesterday. All of those things you talked about are not in the enabling ordinance yesterday. But let's come back to that in a minute. Okay, let me come back to that in a minute. Because let me ask you a more fundamental question. You say the city needs a seat at the table. Why? With all the entities that are properly trained out there, with social service agencies, law enforcement agencies, medical agencies, all of whom are dealing with different aspects of the homeless from a background that they actually understand. Why does municipal government need to somehow feel that it's got to be in charge or it's got to be the coordinator? And I'm not trying to be snotty about it. I'm really asking, why does the city government need to be involved in this position?
Howard, fair question. I mean, it's one we've heard from a definite segment of the population. But look, all of us on city council were elected to represent people within this community, not just people with houses, but also people without houses. And I think when you're the mayor of the city that has homeless people living in tent encampments, that is a suggestion to you that, maybe the city's not doing everything it can to help those people find solutions. The more I've delved into this issue, I'll be honest, when I first ran for office, it wasn't an issue I'd spent a lot of time thinking about. I have spent a lot of time thinking about it, and the more you learn about it, the more complicated and complex you realize that it is. There's no one path that leads people to homelessness. Obviously we have issues with drug addiction. We have issues with mental health. We have issues with people who just grew up with really bad options or made some bad choices in life and ended up homeless. But we have a lot of different organizations, like you said, that have, in some cases, different approaches and different strategies, and in some cases, different restraints or constraints on how they can help people try to get out of homelessness. We also have some organizations that, quite frankly, aren't committed to getting people out of homelessness, but just trying to help people who are in tent encampments live more comfortably. Often, and I've had several conference calls, Zoom calls. This conversation began last year during the pandemic, so we had Zoom calls with members of just about every organization here, and I think every organization is well intended and does a good job in its own silo, but they're not all talking to each other in a way that I think is helpful. And I think it's also important to note that sometimes the funding for these organizations or whatever, it limits how they can, the people they can help. For example, the Homeless Coalition, which is probably the most structural organization, is limited in the people it can help. If someone's homelessness did not originate in the city of Wheeling, that person can't be counted as homeless. By the way they calculate their numbers and the way they direct their assistance. We have other folks who are much less structured, who have a different approach. But the conversation, in my opinion, is not happening where we make sure that for every person who's homeless in our community, that there is some cohesive approach taking place for them, that some case management is occurring within organizations, and that one organization isn't doing something for one person that is directing them this way, and then another organization is doing something that pulls them this way. There's just not a cohesive approach, in my opinion, and I don't say that to be critical of anybody, because I think each organization exists in its own right to do what it believes is best. But our goal is to end homelessness in the city, at least what's called chronic homelessness. You're never going to have a situation where people don't fall into homelessness, but we want to end all the chronic homelessness. We want to end the people who are almost permanently living in tent encampments. That's not good for them. It's not good for the city. It's actually not even legal under city law. And, we've had people say, why don't you just kick people out of these encampments on public property? But that creates issues, too. Dealing with this through law enforcement is not the way I think any city that calls itself the friendly city should act here. We've been threatened to be sued before by the ACLU for closing down tent encampments. That's not the sort of statewide news I want the city of Wheeling to get. So I want us to play a constructive role. I recognize that it's an evolving position. The resolution we passed yesterday is a little bit vague, and it gives a lot of deference to the city manager and the city human resources director to come up with the position. But they know exactly where we're coming from here. We've had meetings with them on this, and it's something that I'm not going to guarantee that this is going to work, but I'm going to guarantee that it's the best effort we can come up with to do something to change the status quo, which seems to be failing.
I hear all of those things, and it's impossible for me to say anything that you said is wrong. I can't disagree with it. All of those things are true. But I'm going to come back to reframe my original question, maybe. Isn't there a certain amount of arrogance in suggesting that if this multitude of agencies with professionals who are dealing with this stuff on a regular basis can't make this work, isn't it a bit arrogant to suggest the city's going to go out and find that magic bullet, the single guy or gal that's going to somehow pull this all together and make it all right? I mean, isn't there a certain arrogance in that?
Arrogance is probably not the word that I would use. I mean, obviously, those of us who ran for office believe that, we have ideas that are going to make this city better. This is an issue. We've looked at what other communities have done. A lot of issues. I don't think there's any city in the country of any substantial size that doesn't have a homelessness problem. And different cities have done different things to try to tackle it. But the one approach we've seen by looking elsewhere, places that does have had success, is you need to start with some form of a common data point, building data of who is homeless in your population at any one time, how they came to be homeless, and what sort of help or assistance they are getting, and then taking that information and seeing what can be tweaked to make the situation better. There is, like I said, Howard, if you ask me what is the number of homeless people living in Wheeling today and how did they get there, I can't tell you that. I can go to different agencies and get different answers, and the number changes almost daily because people come and go. Obviously, it's a very fluid situation, but without having some sort of data points, without having some sort of information of what the problem is and where the problem's coming from, I think trying to help it just by throwing money into different organizations, it hasn't been working. The simple fact of the matter is, whatever system we have in place is getting the results it was designed to get, and that is not working. And we need a new approach. And I don't want the city to be playing a sort of trying to play God here and it says this knows best, but I do want the city to have a role in getting all these wonderful organizations that have a reason to talk to each other and not work in separate silos. I think we can do better than we are doing with the same resources that we have, but it's going to take a conversation that just isn't happening enough, and it's going to take people getting out of their silos. Yes.
You have said several times publicly, including just in this conversation today, other members of council have said somewhat the same thing, that a big issue is what you call data points, basically a census of an accurate census of what our homeless situation is. How many do we have? Where do they come from? And so on, which makes perfect sense. So let me be, the process nerd though. That's not even talked about in the enabling ordinance that you approved yesterday.
Yeah.
There's no mention there of data points, census, whatever phrase you want to use.
Technically, yesterday, we just approved a resolution directing the city manager to create this position, but I can assure you that data points, collecting a census and working with organizations to get that census is going to be part of the ultimate job description here, because without data, it's really hard to know if the problem's getting better or worse, and if the approaches that are being done are working or not. So we're going to have to collect better data. We need a common data point. We need an interface here, someone who can come up with that number and figure out what it is, or where the homeless encampments are, where people are at any one point in time, how they got there, whether their homelessness emerged in Wheeling or elsewhere. If they're living in our city without a house, without shelter, it's our concern. And I'm not saying that we're going to eliminate homelessness entirely. I think that's a fool's errand. You're never going to do that. But I do think we could do better because there's different folks. If you look at the homeless population, there are some folks who, if you give them access to a job, if you give them access to housing, they can live on their own successfully. But at the same time, there's other folks who, because of drug addiction, because of mental illness, need a lot more. You can't just put them at a house and expect them to succeed unless there's a lot of other assistance along the way. And some organizations do a great job of that. The Homeless Coalition, for example, does a wonderful job of getting people who can function on their own into housing and have success. We've actually worked with the Homeless Coalition to give some people jobs at the city Wheeling, cutting grass in the summer, cleaning up stuff, and jobs like that. But that doesn't apply to the entire homeless population. There are some folks who you can give them jobs all day. They're not going to be able to work in those jobs unless they also have other sorts of help. So that's the problem. It's a challenging situation. Howard, as you know, people dealing with mental illness, and you were young, even when I was young, people were sent away to institutions and you didn't really see them again. That's not the way we do that anymore, which I think is a good thing. But at the same time, we need to have more help for people who are living with mental illness who cannot always function either without medication or without assistance. Those are a lot of the folks who end up being homeless right now. And I want to make sure that the city has a seat at the table figuring out how we get those people into more livable situations, because tent encampments are just a negative on so many ways, not only are they safe unsafe for people living in them? But they look bad. They're a bad reflection on the city. We get a lot of complaints on council about people standing near Perkins with signs. No one likes to see that. Obviously, I don't think the people standing there holding the signs like to be there either. But it's just a challenging situation, and I'll be the first to admit that we don't have all the answers figured out yet here, and it's going to take more work. One of the reasons that we did a 3-year sunset here is we want this to be a temporary position. See if we can come up with something that does make a difference. But if it does not, the next city council and July of 2024 could do nothing, and this position goes away. It's sunset after 3 years.
Mr. Mayor, what's the hurry though? Why this ordinance? This seems to me to be a half-baked ordinance. No offense. I mean, you're basically saying we want to do something, and then you're turning it over to the city manager to create the position and the details. And God knows I have gigantic respect for Bob Herron, so I have no problem with him, being point on this and creating this position. But what's the hurry? I called this yesterday prior to the vote, not ready for prime time ordinance, and I would still call it that. It seems to me it's just half baked. Shouldn't council have had a more specific guidance for the city manager in this? This is just all over the field. The things you are talking about today, each and every one of them makes sense. Yeah. And yet those aren't delineated here. That may be what you want. And I know you say I assume you've talked to the city manager and you have some sense of where he would like to go with this, and he has a sense of where you'd like to go with this. But the enabling ordinance doesn't lay that out. It's very nebulous.
Well, first of all, you keep saying an ordinance. It's not an ordinance. We could have...
Resolution, pardon me. Resolution.
What we did is a resolution which is aspirational, which creates some basic ideas, but basically leave it to city staff to come up with a little bit of the fine print. Now, we have a working job description that Councilwoman Ketchum and her Health and Recreation Committee came up with. That has been worked on and reviewed by the city's Human Resources Director. And that's it's going to be the working document that the city manager and Human Resources Director used to find this position.
Hold on a second. Wouldn't that be something that the public ought to at least have had a chance to see?
It was, I believe it was shared at one of the Health and Recreation Committee meetings. It was discussed in great length by members. I don't know if the media was at that meeting or not, but it was discussed at great length at one of the Health and Recreation Committee minutes. And that job description exists, and I'm happy to get you a copy of that or whatever. It's out there. It's been circulated among members of council. And the city council is not in the direct role of firing people on city staff. We don't.
No, I get that. I'm very conscious of the way the system works, and that's a very good thing. I mean, that's a very good thing.
So,
so I'm not upset about that, but it does seem to me it could have been vetted a little more publicly, just so the public would have a greater chance. Glenn, did Rosemary, did somebody or somebodies actually sit down with some of these other agencies, with the YSS, with the Coalition for the Homeless, with Catholic Charities, who you heard from yesterday at the council meeting? Did you actually sit down with them ahead of time and talk this through and discuss and the answer may very well be yes. I just don't know. Did you have a literal sit down, face to face, here's what we're thinking about doing conversation with them?
Absolutely. I've had several conversations with them last year when Councilwoman Ketchum got elected. She kind of took the baton on this and has run with this. One of the things that we did, we worked with Susie Nelson from the Community Foundation, and they hired a consultant to come in and talk to all the local groups, and that happened earlier this year. I forget the date. I wasn't at that meeting, but Councilwoman Ketchum was, and you should probably ask her to talk about it in a little bit more detail. But following that meeting, they had a lot of the consultant's observations were similar to the observations that I had last year, that so many of these organizations are very good at what they do, but they sometimes don't work with each other as constructively as you would want. And sometimes in the meeting that I hosted last year, it was almost like people were talking past each other because they were responding to their own issues and concerns, but but they weren't listening to what the other organizations were saying. And as I noted earlier, I mean, there's a wide disparity of approaches here. Some folks are committed to getting people out of homelessness by whatever means, and other folks are committed to doing what they can to make, the tenant cabinets as comfortable as possible. And, you can't really outlaw any of those approaches because it is what it is. So, but getting these groups to talk together a little bit better was the takeaway that we had. And the consultant kind of had a similar thing that, the city needs to play more of a role here. Now, we didn't sit down with them after the fact to say, we're going to do this exactly. But I've talked to individual members from different organizations. Lisa Badil was at one of the committee meetings we had. I spoke with Mark Phillips from Catholic Charities yesterday after the council meeting. I appreciated his remarks. I thought they were very thoughtful. But he did say to me that, they will do whatever they can to make this position work and help and cooperate. They're committed to this issue as much as anybody. And so, look, I'm not suggesting that what was done yesterday is the finished product here. But I feel pretty good based on conversations we've had with city staff. The staff knows what we want here. We're going to be working with them on each step of the way going forward and having some input. And at the end of the day, this position is, if it's going to work, it's going to take the right person in there. And, I've certainly conveyed to the city manager the type of person I'm looking for. We need somebody who has some independence here, but also is well respected with sort of across these different communities and is going to really be able to take this issue on and tackle it sort of constructively. And if we don't find the right person, the position will probably never work.
Just for the record here, you mentioned that the job description was discussed in a recreation committee meeting. Another member of the media, perhaps you can figure it out, tells me that was a meeting where they locked the doors and kept everyone out. The Health and Recreation Committee meeting, the doors were locked, so his argument is faulty. Maybe you can figure out who said
faulty. Yes, I know exactly who you were talking about, and that is. You have to think, that was our meeting, I think, was at 5 o'clock or maybe it was at 5:30, I forget what it was, and the county deputies out front had locked the doors after the meeting started. I certainly was unaware of that. I think everyone on city council was unaware of that, and nobody called or texted us at the time. So the meeting took place after city council, or after the doors to the building had been closed, but they were certainly open when the meeting started, and it was certainly not an intention of anybody to lock the doors. And obviously, if we had known that, we wouldn't. We would have sent
you weren't trying to lock the media out.
No, absolutely not. No, city doesn't even control that building. It's the county controls and owned building. So, the city police officers do not monitor that as the sheriff's deputies that operate that building up front. So, that was an unfortunate situation, but we did have a conversation at that meeting. I don't know if anyone else from the public was there or not. I can't remember, but we did discuss the job description a lot there. Councilman Ketchum probably has the latest iteration of that job description. I'd be happy to get it to you. That's something.
Yes, please do, because I'd like to actually see that. But let me ask again. I asked the question. I think maybe we talked around it. I don't think you were ignoring it. But what's the hurry? Why did this have to be done now? Why did it have to be done last week? It popped up about a month ago at a recreation committee meeting, and it went from one meeting to a vote of the second meeting to council floor fairly quickly. Again, it seems to me that there's a lot of information the public needs to digest, and I'm gathering other agencies probably want to have a little more input into this as well. But why was there a hurry for this?
Well, I guess I don't look at it as there being a hurry because I've been involved in this conversation for a while. We had two health and recreation committee subcommittee meetings about this topic. Following the second one, the consensus was to send it to council and let council decide whether to go forward with it or not. I've talked to every member of council about this. I think we all know. I did want to say that, Howard, you had said at one point the council has too many 7-0 votes. Well, we had a 4-3 vote yesterday, and it was one where everybody was respectful in their disagreements. I think I certainly understand where the three members of council come from who voted no yesterday. I didn't encourage any of them to vote yes or whatever. I understood their positions, but I think for the four of us who said yes, we feel like the city needs to take this step forward and try something different. And the fact that what was voted on yesterday exactly a finished product does not mean that we're not going to get there, because I certainly think we've given the city manager and city staff direction here. I think from the conversations they've had with us, they know what we're looking for. In my position, our job is kind of directing the policy and letting staff figure out how to implement it. And that's just, that's the nature of the city manager form of government that we have. So we didn't want to pass an ordinance or resolution that has every single detail of this job description laid out, because that could change over time. But I can promise you that the basics of that job description are going to be what we're looking for here going forward. And I'll certainly be conveying that to staff and giving input where I can, because I want this position to work, and I think they want this position to work. So I don't think it's rushed. I understand your position, but I think a lot of thought's gone into this, and I want to credit Councilwoman Ketchum for this. This is something that, she really took the baton on this last year and put a lot of thought and energy into it, looked at what other cities have done, and she was able to get 4 votes to go forward with this. So I commend her, and, I want this position to work. I don't want to be mayor of a city that seems to have a worsening homeless problem each and every year. I want this situation to get better. I care about these people living outside in our community, and, they're no less important to me than people who live in homes, and we have to do more than we've been doing to try to help in this problem. So, I'm optimistic, but it's cautious here. I mean, I'm not, as I said earlier, this isn't going to cure everything, but I do think it's a step in a better direction, and I think we'll learn as we go, and the future we'll see here.
Well, I had Rosemary on last week or 2 weeks ago. We talked about it, and I think she has a tremendous passion for almost everything, quite frankly, but certainly for this, she really cares. This is really thought out and very important to her, and I think she's done a good job running with it. I have no complaints with that or criticism, and I don't want anyone to misconstrue. I acknowledge a real homeless issue in the city, and it is multiple causes, multiple solutions. We've got to look at it multidisciplinary. I mean, we can't just take one approach. It's not just a law enforcement approach. It's not just a finding them housing approach, as you pointed out. There's all kinds of things involved. It's very complex problem, and I think we need to deal with it. We being the community at large, and I guess the city as well. I'm just my feeling is this is a little nebulous at this stage of the game, but I guess we'll have to wait and see how it plays out.
Well, I certainly hope so. And I do want to say, in Councilman Ketchum's case, a lot of the homelessness issue we see in this community takes place in her ward, in Ward 3. So this is something that it's not only an issue I think that she ran for council on in the first place, but it's something that's directly relevant in Ward 3. We have a lot of the homeless encampments that we see are in Ward 3 right now. And we also have a lot of the agencies that service the homeless are located in East Wheeling in Ward 3 as well. So it's a big issue in that ward. And it's a big issue in the city, of course, but it's a particularly big issue for folks who live in Ward 3. And on both sides of this issue, it's something that I think, if you walk through any Ward 3 neighborhood, it's an issue you're going to see, and I think we need to do better. And I agree with you that, I agree with you to the sense that, it's arrogant to think that the city's going to step in and just magically make this go away and solve it. But I do think that City Council's actions here are based on a very cautious approach to play a more constructive role in this conversation than perhaps the city has. And although by building in that sunset, we certainly recognize that this may not work, and we don't want to burden another council with the choice of getting rid of this position if it doesn't work. We'll let it go away under its own weight if it fails to get the results that we hope for.
I assume you will probably talk a little bit more about this on your own show this afternoon. Plus, I think
I don't know what I'm going to say now. Yeah, but what am I going to say now? We've already talked about it, Howard. Now we got to rewrite our show.
Hey, Biff, just give them a copy of the tape. They can play it this afternoon, and then they can go to lunch.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
there we go.
Glenn, thanks for coming on this morning. I appreciate it. Again, I'm not opposed to this. I'm trying to get my head around exactly what it's going to do. I'm not sure I still fully understand that. Maybe if I look at the job description, I'll see it and better. But I'm not opposed to it, and I certainly think we have to deal with homelessness in a variety of different ways. So I don't want anyone to misconstrue that, including you. Appreciate your time today, sir. As always, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Wheeling Mayor Glenn Elliott, answering my questions, not necessarily laying all my concerns. I still don't understand why they couldn't have been more specific in this ordinance. It is I'm holding it up for the screen to see, and I said, I'm using a new system today. My green screen is just completely erased. You can't see it. You can't even see. There it is. Well, anyway, sorry about that. Those of you watching on video. It's a very nebulous ordinance. Or, again, it's not an ordinance, it's a resolution. A very nebulous resolution, and it seems to me that there could have been a bit more. It does not say what the goal of this job is. It kind of roams all over the field, but doesn't say what we're supposed to do. And the one thing I've heard the mayor say, and the vice mayor, I think, say, and others have said, we want to get an accurate census. I call that census. They say data points. How many homeless are there in the city of Wheeling? Where are they coming from? And there's no mention of that in here at all. It just seems to me it was, and I don't mean this as a criticism of Rosemary. I give her a huge amount of credit for trying to push through something to deal with this homeless issue. I don't have a problem with that. I just think it could have been a little bit better. Baked, huh? All right, way behind time. I've got some thoughts from Tim Miley on this, believe it or not, that I want to share with you coming up in a couple of minutes, and a few other odds and ends before we turn things over to the legislative watchdogs. Weigh in if you'd like to. On the text line, it's 304-214-1600, 304-214-1600, or you can use the CityNet hotline for a phone call, 304-232-8255. We can continue talking about the city's homeless position, or we can, God knows what, do something else. It's up to you. We are the Watchdog Morning Show here on WKKX and WVOY.
The WTRF Channel 7 News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Now it's time for your look.
Metro News Sports, good afternoon. I'm Joe Mercado. The 3-week summer instructional period in high school. Metro News Sports, good afternoon. I'm Joe Mercado.
No other.
$6, dresses from $12 and more. Shop it all through July 5th at Gap Factory and gapfactory.com.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
The Variety Show with Bill DeFabio is live on the Watchdog Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We talk to some of the region's best business owners while keeping you informed about area events and happenings. You won't believe who I have on next. Tune in and get with the program. Guests from preachers to pros and even some Super Bowl champions. Join me, Bill DeFabio, from noon to 2 for The Variety Show on the Watchdog.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. Beware of telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you. Callers threatening you with arrest or other legal action and demanding money are not from us. If you receive a call like this, hang up, do not provide them with any form of payment or information. Report the call at oig.ssa.gov.
Over the years, you've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-362-2000, 362-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. I'm a private real estate investor who can solve your real estate problems fast for cash. Do you want to sell and just be done with it? Okay, great. I buy vacant properties, boarded up houses, pre-foreclosures, and inherited properties. I also buy apartment buildings, rental portfolios, divorce homes. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. I look forward to solving your real estate problems today. Give me a call for an all-cash offer at 614-362-2000, 614-362-2000.
Getting a COVID-19 vaccine is the best way to protect you and your loved ones. The vaccines have been tested, they're safe, and they work. And they're available at pharmacies in many locations across West Virginia. Making the choice to get vaccinated means getting West Virginia back to regular life. Here's West Virginia University men's basketball coach Bob Huggins.
The pandemic took away the greatest home court advantage in college basketball, our Mountaineer fans. I'm Coach Huggins, and I'm tired of empty arenas, masks, and social distancing. That's why I got my COVID vaccine. They're safe, free, and available almost everywhere without hassle or delay. Let's work as a team, get vaccinated, and fill a Coliseum next season. I'm Coach Huggins. I got my COVID shot. Now the ball's in your hands.
Get your free COVID-19 vaccine today. Find a location near you. Visit vaccinate.wv.gov.
Plumbers and Steam Fitters Local 83 want to thank the owners and contractors of the Ohio Valley for using their locally trained workers to help build for the future. Local 83 helps design, fabricate, and build the gas infrastructure for the oil and gas industry here in the Ohio Valley. Plumbers and Steam Fitters Local 83 is 300 members strong and growing. They also do residential, commercial, and industrial work on both sides of the river. For more information, call Plumbers and Steam Fitters Local 83 at 304-233-4445.
There's something so real about living local, and I know without a doubt I'm not alone. And I love living local. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Said I love living local. WTRF is working for me. The Ohio Valley is
Most of us are faced with uncertainty every day. Your job, your finances, sporting events, schooling for your children, and so much more. With so much uncertainty surrounding you, there is one auto dealership that you can be certain about, and that's Doan Ford. You can be certain that you always get a great deal and the best service afterwards. Being in business for over 50 years has given Doan Ford the reputation of being a strong, reliable dealership. Be certain. Choose Doan Ford. Online at DoanFord.com.
I'm not buying till I check Doan Ford.
Hi, this is Hoppy Kercheval. West Virginia, in many ways, is a diverse state, often with different issues, challenges, and successes depending on where you live. But we're also a small state, and we're all connected by being West Virginians. Every day from 10:06 till noon, I talk about and provide insight into the events that shape who we are. My approach is tough but fair, and we may disagree, but together we'll stay abreast of what's going on in our great state. Successes, the hardships, the challenges, and of course the politics that contribute to making us who we are. So join me weekdays, 10:06 till noon for Metro News Talk Line.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Guess what today is?
It's hump day.
You can watch a video cast of our show every morning on Facebook Live or on our website. Plus, check archives of all of our videos on the Watchdog YouTube channel. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
Scoff at the monkeys who live in that dark tent down by the water hole, drunk every Friday, eating their nuts, saving their raisins for Sunday. Lions and tigers who wait in the shadows, they're fast but they're lazy and sleep in green meadows. Well, let's bungle in the
Bungling along this morning on the Watchdog Morning Show. We're here till 9 after 9 o'clock. The legislative watchdogs are in to talk about a variety of subjects, including, I suspect, Governor Justice's concerns about vaccination. That's going to be one of the topics of Hoppy's statewide talk line show today at 10:06 as well. Hoppy will be talking with Brad McElhaney about what Governor Justice has to say about the vaccines. I'll talk about that in a minute if I have time here on this show. Also coming up today on statewide talk line, Hoppy will be talking with the Governor Justice himself about vaccines. So that's coming up today from 10:06 until noon here on the Watchdog. Of course, it's a Wednesday, so coming up at noon today, it will be the mayor. Starts like Bill DeFabio variety show. No, it won't be. It'll be Dumb Air.
You're Wheeling.
You're Wheeling. No two ways about it. Wheeling Mayor Glenn Elliott and Vice Mayor Chad Thalman will be in. And Winging It at 1 o'clock with Sonia and Olivia. So that's always good stuff for you on Wednesdays. Dave Weekly is in at 5 with the Hotline Show. We've been talking almost exclusively this morning about this homeless coalition proposal, not coalition, this homeless liaison position being created in the city of Wheeling. And I asked the mayor for a copy of the actual ordinance, the actual job description, which he has already sent me. Haven't looked at it yet, but it is, he followed through immediately and got it to me. So I appreciate that. I had posted some thoughts about this very briefly yesterday on Twitter, a couple of the Twitter responses. Howard, first, the position will be a temporary one. Second, it could be paid by the American Rescue Plan. Third, it's a real problem in many cities. Well, yes, it's temporary, absolutely, but it's 3 years. I mean, temporary is not like 6 months. It's a 3-year position, and then the next council, which will be coming on board in 3 years, will make a decision whether or not they want to continue it. So it's temporary, but let's be clear, it's a 3-year position. Second, could be paid for by the American Rescue Plan. Could be. Also could be paid for by CDBG money, I think Manager Herron said yesterday. Point being, there are resources available. They just haven't identified what they are, but there is funding available, just not sure what the funding choice is going to be. And then from this person says, third, it's a real problem in many cities. Yes, I keep saying, I don't deny the issue of homelessness at all. Another tweet, we have a staff whose sole purpose will be to tamp down and eliminate homelessness in the city. Let's give it a chance. Well, I want to give it a chance, but I'd like to know what it's supposed to do. That's That's kind of my point. And as I mentioned, Tim Miley, former delegate, says, Howard, I believe the United Way of Harrison County has something similar, though I'm not sure if they hired additional personnel or simply added additional responsibilities to a job that already exists. That's from former delegate, former minority and majority leader Tim Miley on that subject. And then Tim sent to me a copy of a text exchange he had just this morning with someone on that same subject of creating a homeless position, since Tim was responding to me. This person says, and this is directed to Tim Miley, Tim, I understand, I have empathy for people, but to truly help people, we have to have basic expectations. There are plenty of resources for homeless folks in the community. This is Marion County we're talking about. And even an outreach person at the United Way who walks the streets during the day and talks to folks and links them directly with resources. However, the vast majority of homeless people we are seeing in our community are addicted to meth and have no desire to want to help, but instead consume everything they can to even an outreach person of the United Way. However, they repeat themselves here. I think they must have copied and pasted. This to me is a law enforcement issue until these folks are ready for help. Yeah, that's not the position I take. Yes, there are people who take advantage of things. Yes, there are meth addicts. Yes, there are other kinds of drug addicts. Yes, there are criminals in some cases. It doesn't somehow means that doesn't mean that we ignore them, throw them away, or disregard them. In fact, that's exactly what we need to deal with, are these kind of folks. So I appreciate the comments from Tim Miley and from whoever sent that to Tim as well. You can continue this conversation with me on Facebook or Twitter. I've got a Facebook posting and a Twitter post about this. I'll post the mayor's comments online as quickly as I can today so you can hear what he has to say. Already up on our podcast page is Rosemary Ketchum explaining the need for this position from a couple weeks ago here on the show. And Ben Seidler, one of the three who voted against the ordinance, was with us a couple of weeks ago explaining what his opposition was, so you can get that coming up as well. So all of that's coming up. I wish I had more time. I got some other stuff I want to get to, but you know what, Biffy? Tomorrow's another day.
Yes, it is.
We can always find time tomorrow. For now, I got to say sayonara, see you, bye-bye, farewell. I got to go. I got to get out of here. Kirchhoff's got the comm coming up at 10. The Watchdogs are next. And as for me, go to Lord Willing Creeks don't rise. Backbone does the ring. Don't get impeached. Don't retire. Heart keeps on ticking. And Teddy says, it's okay. You can go back to work tomorrow, Granddad. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock on the Go Run of the Big Gig. Are you back with me, Biffy?
I'm here for a Thursday.
We're going to keep on doing it till we get it right.
That could be a long time.
Indeed.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
A beach across the bay from Tampa.
All righty. And it sounded okay today, Biffy? All right, I've been trying different things. My return, it's not your end, it's my end. My earphones aren't as good on this system as the one I used before, but the microphone is easier to work with, so I keep playing around looking for the best way to get to do this. And then I got a new computer, so I was able to use the green screen background so I could put the old Watchdog background up. I may go back to my house, though. I kind of like the look of sitting in my office. We'll have to wait and see. Anything I need to know? Everything okay? All right. I'll be in an hour or so if you have anything, we can talk then. All right. Talk to you later. Thanks. I appreciate your help, as always. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Haiti's President Jovenel Moise has been assassinated and his wife wounded in an overnight shooting. The U.S. Embassy and the airport now closed. ABC's James Longman is at the foreign desk.
Now, this is likely to plunge Haiti into further violence and chaos. It's been in the midst of a constitutional crisis for months. Powerful armed gangs have filled the void, and now COVID has brought even further misery. This